How was lunch? All right, so here's the way the rest of the day is going to go. We are going to talk about delegations, and then around 2 o'clock, we are going to have some snacks and cakes and whatever. Of course, more coffee, right? Have to have more coffee. And then we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. If you have questions around Active Directory, security, group policy, anything else. If I don't know, I may know someone that does know, so we can at least get the question out and figure that out. So that's kind of the way that the rest of the day is going to go. So let's kind of come back to this idea of delegations. And before lunch, I was talking about the fact that delegations in Active Directory are the #1 ignored security setting in Active Directory. Now, what am I basing that on? Let me give you an example. You guys have heard of Deloitte, right? I think their building was right there, which is strange because I think I was in Warsaw and their building was right there. So it was right there. Well, Deloitte has a branch that does Active Directory audits. And they come in at approximately $500 an hour, and they perform audits on Active Directory, telling you if you are secure. Now, there is something called Deloitte University, believe it or not, and it's in Dallas, Texas, and it's a pretty impressive campus. It's got one building that is a dorm, and then it's got another building that's nothing but meeting rooms. Some this size, some smaller, just meeting room after meeting room. And every Deloitte employee must go and get training regularly at Deloitte University. For the last 5 years, I've been responsible for training Active Directory auditing to Deloitte employees. I've done it 3 times a year for the last 5 years. I've gone to Deloitte University. On average, there's 20 students in the class. So that's approximately 500 students in 5 years. The average experience level of an auditor that comes through my class is about 7 years. So they're not fresh auditors, they're experienced auditors. With regard to delegations in Active Directory, do you know how many actually audit Active Directory delegations? Not a one. The most important security aspect in Active Directory, and none of them are auditing this setting. Okay? They are now, but none of them have done it. They don't even understand the concept. So let's first of all talk about the concept of delegation, and then I want to focus internally, specifically on Active Directory delegation. So what is delegation? In a more general sense, delegation is when we, as administrators, give someone that is not an administrator the ability to perform a task above a normal user. So, for example, if I have a user that needs to be able to install applications on their laptop as they go around the world, I would be delegating to them the ability to install applications. If I have a server, possibly I delegate the ability to someone to stop and restart a service on that server. Maybe this server over here, I give someone the ability, delegate them to control the file system. So delegation is anything above normal user. Okay? Well, how do I grant delegations? Because I get this question a lot, especially from auditors. Can you just tell me how I report on delegations? There isn't one report. It doesn't work that way. Delegations are extremely complex. Giving privileges is extremely complex. So how do we do that? Well, the primary way that we delegate is through group membership. I'm going to go in and I'm going to add a user to a group. The group has privileges. Immediately, the user has privileges. I'm delegating privileges through group membership. Now, I have broken down groups into 3 categories. Now we're talking about privileged groups here, not just groups, privileged groups. Those groups which have a delegation to perform a privileged task. Okay? First type of group is a built-in. We have many local built-in groups because we have the administrators group everywhere. Every single server, the domain controllers, desktops have a local administrators group. Obviously, the scope of this group is they can control that computer. But we have to think about it more than just that computer because of attacks like pass the hash and pass the ticket. And I'm going to encourage you to look at the configuration of the administrators group and the members of this group a little closer than maybe you do today. Because in an attack like pass the hash, there's only one way to stop pass the hash. There's only one way. Well, I guess there's 2. The first one is unplug the computer. That would work. Okay? But if the computer is plugged in, the only way to stop pass the hash is to not allow anyone that has any administrative capability log on. That's it. Because you cannot prohibit pass the hash. So first of all, we need to look at the administrators group. Who should have membership in this group? Well, first off, do not allow your end users to have membership in this group. Okay? I understand that you have users that have applications, and the application is critical for them. And in order for them to run the application, they have to be local administrator. I understand that. But putting them in the administrators group is not the best solution. I think it's the worst solution. What can we do instead of this? Well, there are applications for this. Manage Engine doesn't have any, but there are application vendors like Beyond Trust, Avecto, Dell. They produce these applications. Most of them do token manipulation. So dynamically, when the application that they need to run starts, the process token for that application, which is also generated dynamically, is modified, putting the administrator's SID on the token. Therefore, the process thinks the user is an administrator, but really, the process now has been elevated. It's a perfect solution, okay? But we need to manage the local administrators group precisely to make sure that we secure the machine. Right? Other local groups, the backup operators group. If we're dealing with servers and you grant someone incorrectly or correctly the ability to be a backup operator, they can back up any file on that machine. And if that machine happens to be holding the human resources database, they can back up that database, even though they don't have permission to the database. Yes?
Let's not forget that the backup operators group also grants access to the backup API of Windows, which allows you to overwrite system files.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying in a different way. It's exactly what I'm saying, okay? Because the backup operators group has the backup user right. And because it has the backup user right, it can access any file regardless of permissions. Any file. System files. Any file. So if you're using NTFS permissions to lock down your files, backup operators ignores them. Okay? So this is a very important group. So So we have administrators, backup operators. I put power users there, but it really doesn't have that much power. I think we've overcome the power users group, and it's really not that useful. Okay? Then we have an Active Directory. Default groups. Remember, this is the first category of groups, default. These are groups that all of us have. We installed Active Directory, we get these groups. Domain admins, right? The most powerful group in the domain that can control any object in the entire domain. Administrators. The administrators group in Active Directory is under the built-in group, or the built-in container, and this is a local group. Active Directory, local group. How does that make sense? Anyone in this group is an administrator over the domain controllers. Since the domain controllers also have Active Directory, they're Active Directory administrators. But they are not administrators over servers. They're just over the domain controllers. But of course, if they can administer Active Directory, they can modify groups in Active Directory and give themselves access. So really it can be more than that. But by default, just domain controller administrators. Cert publishers. Certificates. If I have a Microsoft certificate server and I'm in this group, I can deny certificates. Great denial of service attack. Okay? This group is empty by default. DHCP administrators. How important is DHCP to your organization? Right? I mean, imagine someone like me, or someone like you in another organization is placed in the DHCP administrators, and they make you upset, and you want to do damage. So you decide, I'm going to go into every scope, and I'm going to change the subnet mask to 255, 255, 255, 255. Go. First of all, how much of a problem would that be?
No clients would connect
to
anything
themselves. Fun, right? Troubleshoot that. Because the phone would just be ringing.
No, we're using cell phones.
What's that?
We're using cell phones.
Using cell phones. You could ignore. Perfect. ignore.
Right? They use the account code.
The battery ran out on my phone. Sorry. But again, I want you to think of these crazy things that other people are thinking too. And these denial of service attacks are real and very easy. So just make sure the group membership is correct. Empty by default. DNS admins. How important is DNS to Active Directory? I think it might be more than important in Active Directory itself. Okay? If you don't know how important DNS is, here's an action item for you. Go to your machine. Go to the IP properties and type in manually some internet IP address. Just type it in. Then reboot. Your computer will sit there and look for the DNS servers over and over and over again. It's very patient. What it's looking for is the SRV records. It's looking for the DC list. Because in order to authenticate, it needs the list of domain controllers from DNS in order to go to that machine to authenticate. At some point, it will fall back to what it used to do in Windows NT, or I guess it still does, which is a broadcast. But it's a very patient process. Or put me in the DNS admins group and just let me wipe out all of your SRV records. Okay? These things are easy to do, difficult to know, difficult to troubleshoot and recover from. Group policy creator owners. Obviously, the ability to create group policy objects. Group policy, very powerful. Okay? Group policy is a technology that keeps growing constantly with settings and becomes more and more complex all the time. Right? So we don't want the wrong people controlling group policy. Account operators. I don't like this group. This is a legacy group. This is a group that we had in Windows NT, And in Windows NT, if I wanted to grant someone the ability to reset passwords for users, what group did I put them in? Account operators. I didn't want them to be a domain admin, but there was no delegation. There was no capability of getting detailed on what people could do. So I put them in account operators. Today, if I find anyone in account operators, I find out what their job task is, and I delegate that capability through Active Directory. Backup operators. Same thing for your servers and desktops. If I'm in the backup operators group in the domain, I can back up the domain controllers. Right? If I have 4 domains, I'm going to have 4 instances of each of these groups. And they're not interrelated. They're unique from one another. So make sure that you're evaluating these group memberships completely. Okay? 2 more groups, both at the forest level. So if I have 4 domains in one forest, I'm going to have 1 instance of each of these groups. Schema admins, what can they do? They administer the schema, right? Pretty straightforward. So how often does your organization change the schema? Not very often. Who should be in this group daily? None. It should be empty. Okay? Now I want you to think about the very first topic that we talked about today. If you verify that the schema admins group is empty, and you set up an alert to get an email when the group membership changes, and you get an email, isn't that email extremely important now because you know the group is empty? See the difference between not knowing and then knowing and then alerting? It completely changes your mindset on how you administer Active Directory. Okay? Enterprise admins. If I have 4 domains and my account is in the domain admins group in each of these domains, does that make me an enterprise admin? No. So what are some things that an enterprise admin can do that all these domain admins can't? Yes?
Add forces. Add domains to a forest.
I can add domain to a forest, right? I can manipulate Active Directory sites. I can modify DFS, it's AD integrated. How often do these things change? Not very often. Who should be in the enterprise admins group on a daily basis? Now what's interesting, when I asked about the schema admins, you guys are like, no one. When I asked you about the enterprise admins, I don't know, I kind of think I should be in that group. Yes, I am the enterprise admin, right? But I'm trying to protect your organization. Again, if the group is empty and someone is added to the group, that gives you immediate information that something bad can happen that nothing could happen before. Okay? So I like the idea of having a change monitoring system that the only way that an enterprise admin function can be performed is someone is added to the group. I want to see that. That's going to give me information in the bigger picture of what's going on with the groups and potential changes to the enterprise. All right? Now, these are default privileged groups at the domain level and at the forest level. A second category of groups, service and application groups. These are groups that are created in Active Directory when you install a service on a server, on a domain controller, whatever it is. Exchange, SQL, SharePoint. All of them create groups that have elevated privileges. And we already established, you guys were concerned if someone was added to the Exchange admin group. This is why we need to know all these groups. What I do is I go through, I get a listing of all the applications installed on all the servers and all the domain controllers. If I'm not aware of the groups that they install, I go to the website, I do research, and I document all the groups. Because they're not always named Exchange admins. It could be a different name, even though it's Exchange. And I document all of them, because they all have privileges. Third category of groups. This category of groups is something you have created. These are custom. I have no idea what they are. Okay? You've gone in and you said, I'm going to create a technicians group. I'm going to create a help desk group. I don't like domain admins, so I'm going to call it corp admins. I have no idea. You just created them on your own. Okay? Document these. It's important to know who has membership in these groups as well. Okay? Once we have documented the groups, we know who all these groups are, we have to verify the group membership. So, if I come into Active Directory users and computers, I go to one of my groups, members, take a screen capture, I'm good, right? Now I've documented all the members of the group, right? No, what? It's right there. I have two groups. So I gotta go then find out the members of those groups. And if those groups have groups, I have to find out the members of those groups. So all of you have this problem, right? Microsoft has solved this. Can you show me the button that allows me to look at groups recursively?
I can double click.
Yeah, but I want a list. I just want one list. Give me groups recursively. Now, where'd my PowerShell guy go? Did he? He left. He left. I was going to give PowerShell a benefit here.
Get any improvement of this.
Right? Now, this is an absolute true story. Anyone used Power GUI before? Power GUI? It's a pretty nice tool. It's still supported, even though Quest was bought by Dell. I guess the group that created Power GUI still supports it. It's a nice little interface. So I was working with Power GUI and working through this and that, and I realized that there was a new command to get groups recursively in PowerShell. Who figured, right? Now, I taught you before lunch, right, or at least showed you, we discussed, if I do get help group, it should give me information about the group, right? Now, this is not the AD group I'm talking about. This is the group's object that contain the value for specified properties. This has nothing to do with a group, okay? But of course, we're in the wrong interface, right? Because if I've downloaded Active Directory module, I go to that. So, I go to the Active Directory module, and I do get help. Group. Well, that doesn't seem to give me any more information. Now, I mentioned I was an MVP. MVPs get the opportunity to buy their own plane ticket to go to an MVP summit in Redmond, Washington every year. I went in November, right? And of course, it's just a conference. You've all been to conferences, and of course, at the conference, it's multiple days. One evening, there's some kind of a social meet and greet type thing. So I go to this social. The very first person I run into, PowerShell MVP. Great. So we're talking, having a conversation, and I said, I want to explain to you how frustrating PowerShell can be. Because it doesn't always work the way we were told it's supposed to work. What do you mean? Well, when I go to PowerShell and I type net or get help group, it tells me about the group object. He goes, of course. I said, well, it was only afterwards that I wanted recursive groups. He goes, oh, you have to use the Active Directory module. Yes, I found that out too. But when you type get help group in the Active Directory module, it doesn't give you all the commands that have the word group in it. He said, yeah, it does. I said, no, it doesn't. He goes, yeah, it does. No, it doesn't. We did this like 10 times. I go, You got to go try it, because he'd never tried it. Why would he try it? He's a PowerShell guy. He's not an Active Directory guy, right? He just thinks, oh, it'll work. It obviously doesn't work, correct? You see this? You're going to find this all over PowerShell, where you follow the rules and it doesn't work. Now, after a little bit of research, reading the manual, you need to do get help AD group. Oh, because that makes sense, right? And here they are. Once you get to this point, which you're frustrated at this point, I was, you now have the ability to get AD group member. So, if I do get help, get AD group member, right here, I have recursive. So, get AD group member, administrators, recursive. Voila. Fancy, huh? Right? Those of you that have to deal with auditors that ask you for group membership, all you have to do is give them this. Could you imagine the look on their face? What does that mean, right? So you could format this. You could format this output. That's at least 10 minutes of your life. Okay? Does a great job. I'm giving PowerShell all the credit here. But I'll be honest. Click, click, reports, group members. I want to get the details of users, groups, administrators, generate. Oh, and by the way, I can export it to a PDF. Done. I think that's a little faster, a little better output for you, for documentation, for others to actually review the information. So yes, PowerShell does a great job of generating the information. It's just kind of ugly, and I want to get it in a format that's a report, not just output that I'm hoping that will work. Right? So this is the way that we can go in, and for all the groups, you need to get down to the user level. You need to get down to the level of verifying the group membership. Now, the reason we're doing that is all the groups that we know that have delegations or privileges, we need to know who's in the membership in those groups. One way to leverage the group to grant delegations is to go to Active Directory delegations. Now, Active Directory delegations is right here inside of Active Directory users and computers. So if I go to Active Directory users and computers, and let's say that all of these users, I want the password to be able to be reset by anyone in my HD text group. Okay? I'm going to delegate to the HD text the ability to reset passwords over the HROU and all the users within. Makes sense. To do this, we go to HR and we delegate control. In here, we hit next, and we add in the group that we want to give the power to, HD text. Then we grant the power. Reset user password, enforce password change. Next. All right, there's our summary. And we finish. Did it work? I think, right? I mean, I hope it worked. Kind of confusing at first, right? Remember back to the first time you did this? Did you really have any clue what you did? Because you saw an option, you're like, I wonder what that does. Oh, wow, what did I do? Because even the finish, the summary didn't summarize it, right? I mean, we just set up delegation, which really there are two primary delegations. One is resetting passwords, and the other is changing group membership. Those are the two primary delegations that you have using the delegation wizard. Most of them are group policy related. Are you going to delegate over group policy? Probably not, right? So we've done this, but now what we need to do is we need to give them a tool. Because we've just given the HD techs the ability to reset passwords over HR users, I think. But they need a tool to do it, right? What tool does Microsoft provide? Does anyone do delegation this way? What tool do you give the technician?
They still do it, the users.
Ah, so
Or the logout exit.
So-
system service.
So if I'm a user here, running, this is a Windows 7 desktop, does Windows 7 come with Active Directory users and computers by default? So what do I have to install just to get Active Directory users and computers? Right, the remote server administrative tools. Okay. Now in my environment, some of my technicians are using Windows 7. Others are using Windows XP. So I need to give the Windows XP users also Active Directory users computers. How, can I install RSAP there? No. Not that no, not using that tool. What's the tool?
Then we call it some KB number.
That's great. Admin pack. Yes. Remember the admin pack.msi? So this brings me to an area of Microsoft that I wonder about. I wonder. Because I think that there is a group at Microsoft that every year they get together and say, what are we going to change this year for no reason whatsoever? One year they said, let's rename admin pack to remote server administrative tools and give the acronym RSAP. Yeah, that's a good one, right? And they've been busy in other places, right? For example, let's say that your dad is running Windows XP. And your dad, of course, when he has a computer problem, who's he call? You are the help desk for your family. Congratulations, you're hired. So your dad calls and says, I just installed this application. I know that it's really hurting the performance of my computer. How he knows, I don't know, but he's your dad, so somehow he knows. And he says, I want to remove the application. How do I do it? So you would instruct him to go to which tool? Control panel, add remove programs. I mean, duh, right? Now, what's interesting is if your dad is like my dad, as soon as my dad learns something, he is the master of that technology. So, Mom has a new computer, just got it at Christmas, running Windows 7. Mom says, oh, I need to uninstall this application. I just don't want it anymore, right? She's different reason. I just want to clean things up. So your dad hears this. Have the solution for you. I am the master of this. All you need to do is go to Control Panel, Add Remove Programs. She goes to Add Remove Programs and says, I don't have that. And he's like, of course you do. Mine does, yours does. All Windows computers have Add Remove Programs. And then they get in a fight because your mom's like, you always think you're the master and you don't, right? All because Microsoft decided to have a group meeting and change it. Because it's not really the same, right? I mean, it's the same function. They didn't even put it in the right part of the alphabet just to confuse us. Now, I truly believe that this group normally buys pizza and beer. That's the normal thing. Pizza, beer, they go into a room, they make these decisions. But one year, they wanted to step it up and really change something. So they got some tequila. No beer, tequila. And after about the third one, someone says, wait, I have an idea. How get them. Everyone would be confused because they install a new operating system, they try to go, where'd the start button go, right? It worked pretty good, huh? I mean, for this stuff. I really think there's a group. I mean, I could go through and just thing after thing that they keep changing. They just, for no reason. For absolutely no reason. I believe the RSAT is one of those. Okay, so we have RSAT installed. We now inform the user, Patsy's part of my help desk group, that now you have Active Directory users computers, and there it is. Oof. Right? Shows the entire Active Directory structure. Now, if you go to a human and you say, I only want you to deal with the HROU and that's it, what's the first thing you want to do? I want to do something else. And it's there. This is a pit of time, just a pit of time. Because users are going to go through and they're going to try and try and try to do anything. And it looks like it. Plus, you're showing them the entire Active Directory structure, which is available other ways, but why give them the end result? Okay? Now, do you know that Microsoft has a tool that's been around since Windows 2000 to just give them what they need? What is it?
TaskPad.
The TaskPad. Who's heard of TaskPad? Two, right? Have you heard of it? Okay. Have you created these? Have you created it? How fun are they? They're not fun. Oof. On a scale of 1 to 10, like a 12 is not fun. Now, in order to create a TaskPad, which I'm going to show you but suggest you never do this, you go to Active Directory users and computers, you go to the OU that you want to create the TaskPad for, you right-click and you go to you have to go to the other Active Directory users and computers. I forgot. Well, you didn't know there was a different one. Oh, yes. You go to the MMC. And in the MMC, you go in and you add Active Directory users and computers. In this Active Directory users and computers, under the domain, the OU, you right-click and you go to TaskPad View. Good so far, right? It's like PowerShell. Where am I at? I don't know. So, this is two wizards back to back. The first wizard creates the view. The second wizard creates the task. The end result is an MSC, a Microsoft console file, that now you have to distribute. And if ever you want to change it, you get to do the whole process again. Now you can see why you've never heard of them, okay? They're just not, they're not a good solution at all, and haven't been updated ever, because why? You guys don't even use them. Most of you never even heard of these things. So this is Microsoft's kind of solution for this. So, all right, we give them Active Directory users computers, we give them a TaskPad view, so we've now gone in and set up the delegations, and we've given them the tool. Everything's working. But we're worried about security. So we want to verify that the delegations are correct. Because do you think that someone else that you work with, maybe right now, you never know, has gone into Active Directory, right-clicked, and gone through that wizard, didn't know what they did, and they moved on and didn't tell you? Never. I've had that answer before. Nope, I know they haven't. So how do we verify? Has anyone verified Active Directory delegations? It's like talking to Deloitte, right? No one does this. How important are resetting passwords in your environment? On a scale of 1 to 10, how important are they? To know who has the ability to reset passwords for users?
10.
10. How important is changing group membership? 10. And you don't know who has the ability to do it. Okay? Now, when I ran through the wizard, what did it change? What did it actually do?
It created an ACE on the...
Absolutely. It modified the access control list for the HROU. So if I come down here to properties, security, right there is HD text. Now what permission did it give it? Let's see. Uh-oh, special. Have you ever had someone ask you what a special means? None of the above, right? It's special. Someone last week said special means advanced. Oh, so should it say advanced permissions? No. Just go to the advanced button, right? Go to the advanced button, and right here you can see there are 2 entries for HD text. The first one, if I go to edit to see the setting, it made 1 check right there. If I go to the other one, you will see that it made 2 checks, I think, right? Because when we are performing a report, we have to be exhaustive. And those of you that have auditors, you know exactly what that means. Now, for those of you that have auditors, people asking you for reports, how many of them love screen captures? Ask you for screen captures. And why do they ask you for screen captures? Why? Do they tell you why? Because they think that you can change a text file easy, but you can't change a screen capture. It's true. I talk to auditors. They're like, it gives me proof of the real setting. Were you sitting there when they created the screen capture? No. Oh, so they can't use Paint and modify the screen capture? They don't think you can do this. Okay? But if they insist on screen captures, let's go count how many you would have to provide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we have no information yet. Advanced, 7, 8, 9. Then we have to go into these details. Uh-oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? That's at least 50. But don't forget about all these too. So I know that you're not doing reporting on Active Directory delegations. I have estimated one organizational unit has 15,000 approximately individual checks. If I can run a report that has about 10 per view, that's 1,500 screen captures for one OU. Just make a movie, right? Scrolling through everything. Because it's just not feasible. But Microsoft has come to the rescue. On every domain controller, even back to Windows 2000, you have a built-in command. ds-ACLS. ds-ACLS, DS stands for Directory Services, ACL, Access Control. The complex part of ds-ACLS is the syntax. Really not that complex. You're going to put in the OU that you need the ACL for in LDAP syntax. OU equals HR, DC equals AD solutions, comma DC equals demo. DC is not domain controller. Okay? AD solutions.demo is the domain name. There it is. Okay? Long list, right? Not very long at all when you evaluate the list. The you go through and look at most of these, domain admins, enterprise domain controllers, authenticated users, Windows 2000 compatible access, administrators, account operators. What are all of those groups?
Built in.
Built in. They're default. Don't we know who has membership in them? Didn't we just do that? So we verified that all of those groups have the correct members based on the group scope. Can't we ignore these here? Because these are default on the ACL too. And if we know that the membership in the group is correct, they should have that capability. What we're looking for, usually at the bottom of the list, are non-default groups. This one says that they can have the permission for password last set and reset password. But who else is on the list? Finance managers. You mean finance managers have the ability to reset passwords for HR employees? Is that good? I don't think that's very good at all. But it's here. Correct? Here's a challenge. This is probably the most important. It's not a challenge, it's a task. I'm going to encourage you to do this. Most important one of the day. Go pick 20 OUs at random and run DSACLs on them, please. Because you're going to be scared of what you find. Because you're going to find permissions that you didn't know were there. And I want you to be concerned that, wow, someone's had the ability to reset passwords for someone for years and I didn't know about it. Yes?
How do you remove the delegation?
That's a good question. So the question is, how do I remove the delegation? Remember, I owe you. Remember that we talked, they asked that question. Yeah. So, removing the delegation, you would hope, right, that Microsoft, by now, after 16 years, is going to give you the option when you run the delegation wizard and you put in HD text, it's going to show, no, it doesn't report. Because if it reported, I could deselect it and it would remove it. But it doesn't do that. So, because it's a permission, properties, security, HD text, who wants to hit that remove button in your production environment? Not HD, finance, let's do this, finance. Right? You know it's not supposed to be there. Do you want to hit remove? No one's like saying, yeah, I'd love to, right? Why? Why aren't you going to remove this?
We don't know the exact rights they have.
Right.
It could be more than reset passwords.
Well, but I just ran, no, actually we do know. With 100% confidence for this OU, you know exactly what permissions they have. Because I ran DSACLs. But
you don't know why it is there.
you don't know why it's there. Maybe it should be called HR managers and someone mistyped HR. Maybe, I don't know, right? But the real answer is it works today, and if I remove it, it might not work. Correct? That's our concern. And as an administrator, what's your number one job responsibility? Uptime. What?
Security.
No, it's not. That's the number one job of the auditor, of the security person. Your job is uptime, and making sure things function. But I'm going to encourage you because I've given you a solution, and I mean this wholeheartedly. These are areas that are very difficult to see, but I'm giving you the tool, DSACLs, that can display everything. Go clean this up. You need to clean this up, okay? Because if you don't, you're encouraging the insecure settings. Now, when you have something like this, you have decisions to make on how you're going to organize the delegations. Because I think that Active Directory delegations are confusing difficult to create, difficult to remove. Not really difficult to report, but the report's kind of ugly. I mean, it's kind of ugly. I suggest a better way, okay? Now, first and foremost, I suggest that we use a tool that's actually designed to do this. And AD Manager is designed to do delegations. The way that delegations work is you provide a definition of all the tasks that a role has. So you could have a help desk role, you could have a technician role, you could have a junior administrator role, you could have a server role, you could have a reset password role, okay? And it's going to be one or more delegations. But if you think about the Microsoft way, what are the delegations? I mean, if I go back to this, and let's say that I want to do more than just reset passwords and change group membership. Right? So this first one is create, delete, manage users, reset, read all user information, which is really confusing because everybody has that. Right? Everybody has the ability to read all the information, so I don't know why we're delegating that, but create, delete, and manage groups, modify group membership, and the rest of them are group policy. So what if I want to do anything beyond those four? Well, you go to custom. Then you have to, only for the following objects? No, we want to do everything. And we want to look at all possible options. So all you have to do is pick the right one. What is a tasks for AZ role blah? Right? This is not a good solution beyond what we need. How about delegation, roles, add a new role? Oh, you mean I actually just get to point and click for what I want to look at? That's just for users. We have delegations for all objects. So if you have technicians that you want to be able to control some of the Active Directory objects, you simply come in and create a role for them through a tool that's designed to do that. So you will see here that I have a role for basic user modification, which this user can reset passwords and unlock users. That's all they can do. I have given this role to a technician, which is Patsy. Patsy is defined, and Patsy is granted the basic user role, but only over the finance OU. Very similar to what we did with the Active Directory delegation, but I have more precise delegations, and it's a lot easier to see and a lot easier to report on. Now that I have granted Patsy the role, what tool do I install so she can perform the task? Nothing. It's already there. Pick a browser, any browser, right? Give her the name of the machine she's going to connect to perform the task. Instruct her to log on with her own credentials. Goes over to the AD Manager delegation configuration and dynamically, when it creates the GUI, gives her only what she has the ability to control. If I'm going to be gone for a day and I trust a technician, and let's say that I trust Patsy and I'm like, well, I know that we have some other things that Patsy's going to need to do while I'm gone, so I come in and I give Patsy the ability to, let's say, move users, right? I save the role. I do nothing to Patsy's account because the role is associated. I then come back in, have Patsy log in as her own account with the correct password. It just feels it. Why give her the entire view of Active Directory? Just give her the tasks she needs to do. Make it efficient. A lot of times the technicians that are hired for organizations are proficient with computers, but they can get overwhelmed quick. And Active Directory users of computers is big, it's complex. Just give them the tasks they need to perform. Make it easy on them and you. Don't create task pad views. Have the system automatically created. Now, when you get to this point, I am going to highly suggest that you go back to Active Directory users and computers, and for every delegation, you're going to remove all but the default. This is where the security comes in, okay? If I leave finance managers and HD techs on this access control list, could someone go around AD Manager and perform the task that's configured in Active Directory? Because it's on the ACL. If I remove it from here and someone goes around AD Manager, will they be allowed to perform the task? No, they will be denied. The reason this happens is inside of AD Manager, for the technician, I have said impersonate. It's a proxy. Because I'm doing this, I'm securely forcing them to use the right tool, and I am tracking everything they do. That's important. We've already established that. This is change monitoring of what you've delegated. Okay? So with the right tool in place, you can increase productivity, you can increase the knowledge of what you have, the reporting, the delegations are easier and more powerful, and the tool tracks every bit of the behavior. This is a delegation tool. This is the way to securely delegate. Okay?
Moving users, you didn't say from where to where.
I would have to give them access to all the OUs, and there would be a limitation.
But I don't want users in computers OUs.
Then I would not give them permission over the, well, the computer's container.
You
but
can't differentiate.
Sure I can. I can create custom delegations through all the structure if I wanted to.
Oh.
Yep.
You just gave move users and then.
They would be able to move users to this OU in that scenario.
Okay.
But if I wanted them to move it to different ones but not others, I would not give those OUs in the list of the role. I'm sorry, in the list of the definition. So if I go back to technician, right here, I have only finance. If I just have finance, finance is the only one, and the others are declined, denied. That's how you would do it.
Okay.
And so let's say, for example, that I want you to have the ability of full control over this OU, but only reset passwords of this OU. I would have two different roles for you over two different OUs. Yes?
If someone is doing the delegate task from AD Manager, how would that be seen in the Windows security logs? Would that only reflect the impersonation?
Yes, today it's the proxy.
Yes, okay.
So that's why the audit report here is so important.
Yes, and you have to sort of secure that you have the combination of the AD itself and everything around the AD Manager as the basis of any auditing.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. So if you use this philosophy, you would come into this list of technicians and verify the delegations here. Because that's why I'm saying you have to go to AD and wipe it out, otherwise you have to run DS-ACLs on everything. Okay? But over here in AD Audit Plus, any action that is performed by the delegated person, the report will show the proxy, the AD manager proxy that you've configured. All right? But as soon as you see AD manager proxy, you go to AD manager and you look up what they did. All right? So I think it's clear the power of all the benefits of using a tool like this increases the security, the tracking, the auditing, and now you have the full benefits of a tool that's designed to do this. Okay? So what have we gone over today? We started this morning with some password stuff, but we'll bypass that. We started this morning talking about change management, right? The idea that we as administrators need to know when things change in Active Directory. We need to have reports. We need to be able to generate reports to meet compliance and auditor request of what has changed in Active Directory. As an admin, it's vital. We need to be able to troubleshoot things quicker, seeing the changes that are occurring as they occur, and receive alerts, real-time alerts. When we move to user lifecycle management, here we're talking about, in the end, automation. I just want to automate the creation of bulk users using templates. So the entire process is absolutely correct. Whether you use workflow or not, that's up to you. The point is, let's leverage templates and automation so that my HR system produces a CSV file of users, first name, last name, template name, and it's done. I'm hands-free. I'm done. I don't want to create users. I just want it done. Then we talked about the final piece, which is making sure that the overall delegation in Active Directory, whether it be for users or any object, is secure. The Microsoft method is a little confusing, as you guys proved. We've got to know who's in there. So let's run DS-ACLs and clean things up. If nothing else, please do that. Okay? If you want to take it to the next level, there are tools designed to allow you to control better who has what delegations, give them more delegations with a couple of clicks, and the end user interface is just the browser. There's no more updates to applications, no client piece. And we're tracking everything that they do. Okay? So that's what we've covered today.